shopgear.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast.
And with that, we welcome you to Better Live Than Dead, the BLTD Podcast, powered by the Gear Radio Network, episode 133, the 2019 Baseball Hall of Famecast. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have new Hall of Famers in Major League Baseball, the wrap of the other podcast we did a few episodes ago, talking about the candidates and who may make it. We now know who's in and who is on the outside looking in. First off, before we get started, you can hear us on betterlivethandead.com, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you can get a podcast, you can get the Better Live Than Dead podcast. I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the IndyCard Media Hotline by the man himself, John Cimino at the JC Money on Twitter. John, how you doing tonight?
I am doing okay, Ryan, my boy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired now that I did that entire intro in seemingly one breath, but hey, we're here. We're talking baseball.
Baseball.
And you know what? We're back on the air. We just did a podcast a little while ago with Lewis about the big game preview cast. And John, because you weren't on the podcast, we'll throw a little football in here real quick.
Okay.
I know we had
I do like to talk football a lot. So,
yeah. We had our preview predictions. They weren't very good, so I'll give you a reprieve here. Patriots, Rams. Who you got?
Oh man, see, this is going to be a tough one here. My heart is telling me the St. Louis. Wow. The St. Louis people, the fans of St. Louis are probably, crapping their pants right now and are super pissed at the fact that the Rams are in the Super Bowl. I love the fact that they are wearing the blue and yellow uniforms indicative of the Dickerson days and Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be a beautiful, beautiful sight to see. And the defense, I think, is going to be very, very problematic for the New England Patriots. But that said, while my heart wants the Los Angeles Rams to come out on top, the realistic side thinks that, sorry, Lewis, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be number two by themselves. I think by themselves, right? They have five, right? They have 5 Super Bowls.
The Cowboys have 5. I think the Steelers have 6. Maybe
the Steelers have 6. So the Cowboys and the Patriots have 5. I think that one more chip for the Patriots. So I'm taking the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl over the Los Angeles Rams. But I would really, 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 really enjoy it if the Los Angeles Rams won.
If you tune into the podcast, I picked the Patriots, but I said I don't care either way. Who cares? Because it is what it is. It's going to be a good game either way.
You gotta love the uniforms though.
Absolutely, I'm a big fan. Big fan that they're going back to the throwbacks. I hope at some point in time they just go to that uniform full time, but we'll see.
Well, I think that they're supposed to, or they're up. Like this was the last year.
Yeah,
and I know we said Baseball Hall of Famecast, and trust me, fans, we'll get there. But I believe this is the last year that the Rams are wearing the uniforms of the St. Louis era with the little gold stripe in there. So what I'm curious to find out is whether or not they go back like all the way back to the original Los Angeles Rams blue and white uniforms, like their helmets usually are, that scheme, or if they say, you know what, based on the popularity of the blue and the yellow of the Dickerson era, we're going to go to that. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this year was the last year that they had to wear contractually those St. Louis uniforms.
Either way, we'll look into it. We'll get back to it. I believe you're right about that. I do recall something regarding that, which is why they wear the white helmets with the new jerseys, because they want the white helmets with the old blue and white. But we'll see.
And I'll tell you this: the New York Jets are getting new uniforms this year too. And if if my source has it correct, it's gonna resemble the Miami Dolphins.
I was going to say it's going to be a gigantic poop emoji.
That's
going to be the Jets.
I'm not thrilled with their OC pick, but we'll talk about that in a different podcast.
With that being said, the highly anticipated Baseball Hall of Fame announcement came across the board Tuesday night, and John, 4 new members have been voted into Cooperstown. Without further ado, we'll jump headfirst into the 3 big things, starting off with the new Hall of Famers who were voted in. Yes, we obviously know that Lee Smith and Harold Baines had been chosen by the Veterans Committee. They're going to Cooperstown in July as well. But the 4 that have been voted in, Edgar Martinez, in the final year of his eligibility, he received 85.4% of the vote. The first full-time designated hitter to be elected. So check that one. Check that box off finally. That should open the door for some future Hall of Famers. David Ortiz.
Well, Ortiz would have been in either way.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but somebody has to break the barrier, I guess, if you will. And Martinez becomes the first DH, and it took way too long for him to get in. But finally, it seemed like when the voters when they made that change where all the old curmudgeon baseball writers were saying, designated hitter doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. When they kind of recycled those guys out and brought some new writers in, it seems like the mindset changed. So there's that. Roy Halladay and John, just to let you know too, I'll run down the list and then we'll go back and we'll chat about him in just a moment. This way, everybody, in case people may have missed, Roy Halladay, 85.4% of the vote, arguably the best pitcher of his era.
Absolutely. And that one, I know you said you run down it, but man, I was so happy to hear that.
Absolutely.
So happy to hear him in there.
Mike Messina received 76.7% of the vote. Arguably, in my opinion, one of the most underrated pitchers of his era.
Not only underrated, but underappreciated. I think so
too. I think he's got the double under on that one because it seems like you could always rely on him, but no one ever appreciated him as much as he should have been. And this coming from a Red Sox fan. I mean, he's one of those guys I always wished he was on the Red Sox, but hey, whatever, it is what it is. And then finally, last but not least, Mariano Rivera, the most dominant closer ever in the history of all of professional baseball.
Out of curiosity, how many, what was the percentage of the votes that Mariano got in on? I'm just curious.
I was just about to say, being the most dominant closer ever, how does he mark his induction? By closing out 100% of the vote.
Absolutely. And, while I'm very happy as a Yankees fan that I can say a New York Yankee, specifically this New York Yankee, Mariano Rivera, was the first unanimous Hall of Famer in the history of the Baseball Hall of Fame, he really should have been the second one.
I mean, honestly, there should have been a lot more unanimous selections a while back, but obviously the old, as I talked about, the curmudgeon baseball writers who often said, well, this guy can't go with 100% of the vote. Now we've passed that. Who cares? As long as you get 75% of the vote, who cares?
Right.
Just get in the Hall of Fame. Because I'll tell you what, Mike Messina at 76.7% of the vote or Mariano Rivera at 100% of the vote, it's still going to say Baseball Hall of Famer after their name, and their plaques are still going to look exactly the same.
Right. Absolutely. And it is true. And you, again, to your point, 75% of the vote, that's what you need. Messina in 76.7, he just got in but it doesn't matter at that point. 75 or up, you're in. When you're in, and nobody can take that away from you.
Absolutely. And looking at these four Hall of Famers, Edgar Martinez, posthumptuously, I think is how I can never say the word. Roy Halladay's in again. That is posthumously. Thank you. I was just going to make up a word here. Roy Halladay, by far. I remember when he played for the Blue Jays and whenever the Red Sox would play, it always felt like they would always get Roy Halladay every time.
And same thing.
So
same
pissed
thing with the
because
Yankees.
I'm like, I'd be like listening to the game, clean up my room when I was younger. And I'd be like, you know what? Why am I even listening? Because Halladay's on the mound. He's going to mow him down. He almost always would. Now, granted, he doesn't have the 300 wins, doesn't have all the crazy numbers, but this is by far, I think, a move in a positive direction for pitchers today. I mean, Halladay one of 6 to win a Cy Young in both the AL and the NL.
Mhm.
He has multiple he has a postseason no hitter. He has through 2 no hitters in the season, one in the regular season, one in the postseason. I mean, hands down, one of the best pitchers of the era.
It wasn't just a no hitter in that one magical season. That was a perfect game.
Yeah, perfect game in the regular season, no hitter in the postseason.
Right.
I think by far, not surprised that Roy Halladay gets in. I think Messina, if he didn't get in this year, would have got in next year. And then Mariano Rivera, once he became eligible, there was no doubt about it.
Right.
Mariano Rivera was going to go. It was, for me, it wasn't a if, it was a how many votes he would get. And clearly he got all of the votes here. But I mean, this is a very, very solid class. It'll probably be one of the last big classes we see for quite a while.
Right.
As we'll talk about in just a few big things here coming up. But it definitely does seem like, you're going to get 6 players into the Hall of Fame. There will be a few players going to the Veterans Committee that will certainly spice that up a little. But I think this may be for a while the last big class we see, and why not do it in style with Martinez, Halladay, Messina, and Rivera?
Absolutely. And to go back to the point about Halladay, not having the 300 win mark, and Messina was 30 wins away from that. So he was obviously closer than Halladay, being at 203 wins. But realistically, you're not, the way baseball is today, nowadays. You're talking pitch counts, you're talking bolstered bullpens, teams wanting to go, if you could get 6 innings and have a 7th inning guy, an 8th inning guy, a setup man and a closer, that's where the game is headed. So it's going to be highly unlikely that we'll see another 300 win pitcher anytime soon. I don't think Sabathia is gonna get there. I don't know exactly how many wins Sabathia has right now, but this year coming up is his last year, and I don't think he could hit 300 at this point. He'd need to play probably another 2 or 3 more seasons of good pitching, and he's just not there now. So he's not going to hit 300. I don't know who would have a chance at hitting 300. So 200 wins as a pitcher might be the new magic number in today's era of baseball.
If CC Sabathia can win 54 games next year, he would hit 300.
Yeah, that's totally not going to happen.
I mean, you look down the list of active players. You've got Bartolo Colon at 247. He's played for 21 years.
Oh, I can't wait till that dude goes in the Hall of Fame, though.
He's 45. But I don't know if he will, though, because he did fail a PED test. And
yeah, okay, he failed a PED test, but I mean, look at him, big sexy.
I understand, but then again, you look at it, and I mean,
he hit 1 home run. He's got 1 career home run. That alone should put him in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just looking down the list right now. I think the 2 guys to look at, I mean, you're probably looking at. Just want to grab a couple names here for you real quick in terms of winning a lot of baseball games. The big 4 for me: Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw, David Price, and Chris Sale. And Scherzer leads the way with 159 wins at 33. He would probably need to have, he's going to need 41 more wins to hit 200. He can probably do that in 2 seasons if he continues to be super strong, 34 and 35 age seasons. But he may hit 200. I know Kershaw's been injured on and off. He's had a bad back, but he's only 30. That may help him out. Price is at 32 years old, 143 wins. Chris Sale at 29 has 103 wins. Maybe if you get, 15, even if you get 15 more wins a season at 5 seasons, that's still 15, 30, 45, that's 75. So even then he would still be under 200. So, yeah, I think at this point it's going to be more or less, you're going to see a guy like Max Scherzer is 159 and 82 with a 3.22 ERA, and he's a 3-time Cy Young Award winner. I think he's a Hall of Famer at this point. Clayton Kershaw, same thing, 153 and 69 with a 2.39 ERA. He's won a Cy Young 3 times. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, looking at Chris Sale, he's 103-62 with a 2.89 ERA. Never won a Cy Young, but by far one of the best pitchers of our time.
Yes, he's one of the best pitchers of our time right now. If his career ended today, he'd be in the Hall of Very Good.
I think he's got a ways to go, but again, if he can keep it up through like 35, if he can win 150 games, he's currently the all-time leader of strikeouts per 9, and the strikeout to walk ratio is 531. So I would say, it's those are both current all-time records.
Right.
But again, it's one of those things where maybe if he gets 3,000 strikeouts, which he's at 1,789 right now, maybe that'll help his case. But the thing right now, John, with Major League Baseball pitching is that we're rolling out of the era of where Messina was close to 300. But if you take Messina and compared Messina then to pitchers now, he would by far be statistically better than the guys now because the stats have changed.
Right.
Because we're in more of a hitting era, less of a pitching era.
Right.
The good pitchers are great. Everyone else is just okay or good.
Right.
So I think we'll have to give it a decade. Yeah, we'll have to give it a decade or so to find out what is our 300 wins for this era, what is our 3,000 strikeouts for this era, and then go from there.
Right, absolutely.
Sorry to take some water. I talk way too goddamn much there.
Yeah, that's all right. It happens.
Moving over to the players who missed out. This is kind of our laundry list of favorite players, so we get to run through every single season.
Mm-hmm.
319 votes needed for induction this year. Obviously, it changes every year, but we'll just kind of go with the 319 number here. Kurt Schilling, starting off at the top, our resident racist of the Hall of Fame class. 259 votes. He's up from 51.2% in 2018 to 60.9% in 2019. Now, we can go case by case here. Schilling has moved up enough. He moved up 9% in a year that going into next year with a little less strong of a class, which we'll talk about, there's a potential Schilling could make another big jump to 65 or 70%. Judging by how he went last year, one would expect him to jump to about 70-ish to make him close to induction, but not yet there at this point in time. I think Schilling, despite his penchant for being a gigantic racist and also kind of a terrible guy all around and a really bad video game designer, I personally think that he'll probably make the Hall of Fame.
I'm pretty sure I trolled him. Now that you mentioned that, I'm pretty sure I threw that out there in response to his response to me about the perfect game thing.
You absolutely did. I remember you telling me about that. Yeah. I remember you texted me one day and said, I just trash talked Kurt Schilling on Twitter, and he actually responded to me.
Yeah, he says when did you throw a perfect game? I said I tried to, but your crappy AI didn't work for me or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember, but it got a lot of likes, and I was surprised. I went on a crusade to try to get that asshole to block me on Twitter, but instead, Tommy Lauren got me in the Facebook jail recently. That stupid broad. Anyways,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You have to tell me off air.
Okay.
But I think Schilling will for sure get in at some point. It's not a matter of if, but when. Moving on to our next two on the list, the two big thorns in the side of the Hall of Fame, the BBWAA, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds.
Oh, I'm going to go on a rant, a little bit of a rant, but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll run through the numbers and I'll let you go. Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds both saw a bit of an uptick, not a huge uptick, but Clemens at 253 votes finishes with 59.5% of the vote, up from 57.3 in 2018. Bonds, 251 votes, 59.1% of the vote this year, up from 56.4 in 2018. There are two voters who believe that Clemens is a Hall of Famer, but Bonds isn't. Blows my mind. I'm not really sure why, but John, by all means, I'm unleashing the beast. Let the viewers know, let the listeners know how you feel about this.
I am so sick to death of these, and I know I touched up on this last podcast with these crusaders of truth, where it's like, oh well, they cheated, they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because they cheated and they took steroids. Yeah, okay. Be that as it may, whether they did or whether they didn't, it's up to the court of public opinion. Unfortunately, is not the court of law. and both went through the court of law and survived. And did not, and there was no whether you agree with the result or you don't agree with the result, whether you equate it to the to the O.J. Simpson result, where they say he didn't do it, but he did. But still, the court of law is the court of law for a reason. Bonds and Clemens went through that. They couldn't find anything. They didn't have anything substantial. They were acquitted of all of that. These writers have the gall to ride their coattails during the big home run chase, or when Roger Clemens was brought back, was personally flown into the Steinbrenner box, and Susan Waldman was at the point of orgasm when he was being revealed, and everybody was all like, "Oh, Rocket's back, yeah, the Yankees this, and Rocket, getting 300 and some odd wins or whatever," and everybody's writing their blogs, and everybody's doing this in an era when social media was not there, and people were clicking somethingblog.com to read your blog about what you thought about Roger Clemens or what you thought about Barry Bonds, whom had more walks than the entire Philadelphia Phillies team in the span of 3 years, I think between 2002 and 2004 or 5 or whatever. But notwithstanding all of that, these guys, if you take away from 1999 on, they're still Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
They are still Hall of Fame. If they were to retire in 1999, before the steroid blow up, before Bonds hit 72 in a season, long before he hit he passed Hammer and Hank, before Roger Clemens got 300 wins, before he got 350 wins, they were Hall of Famers then, based on what they had done up until that point. Arguably, Bonds was a Hall of Famer by the time he got out of Pittsburgh. Okay. Yeah, then I'm hearing asterisks. If they go in, they should get an asterisk, because that would be like a slap in the face to someone like Piazza or Mike Piazza or Mo. Then there's another argument that there should be a separate wing and compare them to Pete Rose. Like, well, Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame. They should let him in and whatever. But it's not the same thing, because the Hall of Fame passed a rule that band players would not be eligible. Pete Rose is banned. Bonds and Clemens aren't. Terrible argument to you freaking Warriors out there about that. But basically, these two deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, regardless of what you think of what they did personally. And for the writers, more or less, they don't like Bonds, not so much just because of the steroid thing, but because of the fact that Barry Bonds didn't play their games when it was post-game press conferences and things like that. And to a degree, I could get why people were a little stained to Roger Clemens, because he threw everybody and their grandmother under the bus to clear his name, but he cleared his name. And it doesn't take away from the fact that he did what he did and Bonds did what he did. These two need to be in the Hall of Fame. And for the fact that these dorky writers that haven't picked up a baseball bat and played in a professional game their entire lives are the ones that are deciding this is absolutely asinine to me. And even the comparison to Pete Rose, whom broke an actual major league rule and was banned for life because of it. And the Hall of Fame had that ban, that rule about banned players in place. I mean, it just it frustrates the hell out of me, Ryan. I'm sorry. Okay,
look, I don't disagree with you on that one. I mean, honestly, looking at it, Bonds and Clemens, my thought is this: in an era where steroids are very prevalent, never failed the drug test. I think Bonds and Clemens, you should give them the benefit of the doubt, and you should educate the fans. We talked about this before. Mm-hmm. I also agree that, before Bonds went to San Francisco, he was a Hall of Famer. I agree with that for sure.
You have wife beaters, racists, cheaters, money launderers, mobsters, all different types of people from different types of eras that did worse shit than them in the Hall of Fame. But you're going to tell me that the all-time home run king can't be in there.
Yeah, and it's going to be really disgusting. And I don't say this because Alex Rodriguez was a Yankee, because I don't care. I've become actually quite fond of Alex Rodriguez following his playing days, because he actually has shown he's not a robot, has a personality. Like the most recent video where he was hanging out at a place, and the lady goes, "Are you J-Lo's boyfriend?" And he's like, "That guy looks handsome." He goes, "That guy looks kind of like a douchebag." And he's like making fun of himself. And I'm like, that's great. I enjoy him. He's a fun guy outside of baseball. But it's going to be very disgusting to see Alex Rodriguez show up on the Hall of Fame ballot and watch people trip over themselves to vote for him, despite the fact that he failed so many drug tests that I have forgotten the number. I don't think he'll get in, but I think a lot of people will vote for him. But that's like a semantic argument where you won't vote for Clemens, you won't vote for Bonds because they didn't play the game, like you said, John, but they never failed the test. Where Alex Rodriguez, he failed tests, but he also played the game. He also, I'm so sorry for what I did. Sorry.
You see, Alex Rodriguez lost me. Like, okay, the first time he was busted, and he had that press conference, and he flat out said, "I signed that large contract with Texas, and I fell to the pressure, and I needed to keep up with, because I put so much pressure on myself with all the money and everything that I got. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I hope that the first 10 years don't disqualify me from an overall body of work that I'm going to put in for the next 10 or 15 years. And then 3 or 4 years later, he got pinged for another drug test and then was suspended for an entire season, I think, because of another one. Yeah. So he lost me there from a player aspect. As a baseball analyst, the guy is money. And if he ends up going along the same line, I mean, Bob Uecker didn't necessarily have the most impressive baseball statistics, lifetime career baseball statistics, but the guy is a hell of a baseball analyst, and he made the Hall of Fame because of that. Alex Rodriguez, if he continues to, be the analyst that he is, granted, when he's older, much older, he could be in the Hall of Fame as an analyst. That would be wonderful.
That would be something for sure.
And that's a possibility. And even then, that could also justify, at least for him, his playing career. All right. Yeah, I did. I made a lot of mistakes in my playing career. I'm not a Hall of Fame baseball player, apparently, but, here I am, analyzing the game, critiquing the game on all of the major networks. He's on Fox and ESPN doing games, for Christ's sakes. If he sticks to that, by the time he's 70 years old, like Uecker was, sure, I could see him in the Hall of Fame for that. But as far as a playing career goes, and speaking as a Yankees fan, whom, to be honest with you, did not want him on the Yankees at all, he lost me as a Hall. I wouldn't vote for him if it were up to me.
I'm just actually looking at some Hall of Fame stats right now because I want to talk about a gentleman by the name of Larry Walker, who has his 10th year coming up next season. This year, his vote total jumped up to 232 votes, a 54.6% of the vote. Last year, he had 34.1%. That's up 20.5%. SB Nation points out that if Walker gets the same support in the 2020 election that he did for the 2019 election and vote totals remain steady, he would need roughly 81 more votes to get into the Hall of Fame. Now, John, Larry Walker, despite the fact that he played the prime of his career in the performance-enhancing Coors Field, if you will, excuse me, still finished his career with 2,160 hits, 383 home runs, and a .313 batting average. Looking at the average Hall of Famer, the average batting Hall of Famer, 225 home runs, a .302 average, and 2,410 hits is the average batting Hall of Famer. So I would say my presumption, Larry Walker by far is a Hall of Famer. I don't think if he gets in, I think if he doesn't get in through the voting next season, which is very possible, that he could potentially get a Veterans Committee call, just because, again, Harold Baines getting in kind of opens the door for some Hall of Very Good guys, like Fred McGriff, for instance, who fell off the ballot with 39.8% of the vote, but he may get a longer look through the Veterans Committee. I think a guy like Larry Walker may get his due and may get voted in next year. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Well, he should. He has one stat that you did omit. I don't know if you knew this or not. He's a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame.
He's a member of a couple Hall of Fames, actually.
But besides all that, besides the hitting statistics and everything that you made mention, 5-time All-Star, the NL MVP in 1997, 7 Gold Glove awards, 3 Silver Slugger awards, 3 batting champions. He was the home run leader in 1997, which was his in the NL, which was his MVP year. I mean, very good, borderline Hall of Famer. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Absolutely. I do believe 100% he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I would hope that next year he gets those votes to get in, because he's definitely got, based on your averages that you threw out there, he's certainly more than qualified for it.
Absolutely. And again, it's one of those things where if he gets voted in by the Veterans Committee, or if he gets voted in by the Hall of Fame writers, it doesn't matter. He's still a Hall of Famer. I just presume he doesn't want to wait, because I know the Hall of Fame Veterans Committee votes every, I think, 2 or 4 years, something like that. So there'll be a couple more years. I believe it's maybe 2 years. I don't remember. I have to double check that one. But either way, I think he's a strong candidate to get in. And then the other name to look at, Omar Vizquel, up from 37% in 2018 to 42.8%, 182 of the votes. Now, real quick, John, before we wrap up the podcast, I want to jump over to the third big thing of the podcast, the 2020 Hall of Fame preview. Real quick, we talked about Bonds and Clemens. I'm saying look for 65% next year. If they don't get there, it's probably not gonna happen. Same with Schilling. He'll probably see a big jump. Larry Walker, like we said, could take the final leap potentially. But a lot can happen in a year.
Schilling can go absolutely crazy, wear a Make America Great Again hat and say something stupid, and people will be like, yeah, no, screw him.
He probably will say something nuts. Let's just be honest. Let's not give him the benefit of the doubt here.
Indeed.
Looking at the 2020 Hall of Fame class, if Mariano Rivera wasn't going to be a unanimous Hall of Famer, Derek Jeter,
the captain.
Class of 2020. I'm going to go out on a limb, John, and say Derek Jeter is going to be the class of 2020 Hall of Fame for the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
Oh, you took that right out of my mouth too, because I am also thinking as well, based on some of the names that I see that are up for induction. When you look at the names, and you were very kind enough to write them in the little preview here. But when I look at these names, Abreu, Giambi, Cliff Lee, Alfonso Soriano, Derek Jeter outshines every single one of them. Giambi, of course, failed drug tests and often injured as well. Abreu, I think, had a failed drug test too. I could be wrong, or he might have been on the Mitchell Report or something like that, maybe. Jeter didn't have any of that stuff. Jeter should be, and very likely, the likelihood will be he will be the second unanimous Hall of Famer ever. But from everything that I'm reading and the vibes that I'm getting just from the different blogs and whatnot, I absolutely agree with you. Derek Jeter very likely will be the entire class of 2020.
I think that Jeter will be the second unanimous Hall of Famer, because not only it's not only what have you done on the field, but it's also how have you treated the media. And I don't think there's a guy who was better with the media than Derek Jeter, honestly. The only thing I think the knock against him is I guess it's a petty knock, but the gift basket extravaganza here in Jeter, where he would hook up with a girl and then give her a gift basket. He may lose a couple votes because of that, but
maybe he'll send all the voters gift baskets.
That's exactly what I thought. Maybe he'll send out a gift basket.
I remember when that story broke, I could not stop laughing at that, because
it just shows how classy of a gentleman he is.
He's classy. He's not like, hey, get out of here. It's like, hey, get out of here. Here's a jacket and a bottle of water.
Here's my jock strap.
You know what I mean? So good. Good for Jeter. But I brought it up because I need to. He's He's my captain. I mean, for always and forever, Don Mattingly will be my all-time favorite Yankee. But Derek Jeter's 1A. For me.
Let me see.
14-time, I got this for you. 14-time All-Star, 1998 through 2002, 2004, 2006 through 2012, and 2014, his final season. Of course, that All-Star appearances are popular votes, but 5-time World Series champion, World Series MVP, AL Rookie of the Year, 5-time Gold Gloves, 5-time Silver Slugger Award, 2-time AL Hank Aaron Award winner, Roberto Clemente Award winner, Yankees captain from 2003 until he retired. His number 2 is retired for the New York Yankees, as well a Monument Park honoree, among so many other things. But above all of that, the gift basket extraordinaire, my friend. That alone is Hall of Fame.
You want to hear my favorite Derek Jeter? It's the Reddit thread from 2013. It says here again, it's Reddit, so you can't believe it because you don't have any real proof, but someone says, my friend's cousin, and this is for all those who've missed it. If you've heard it before, it's incredible. My friend's cousin dated Derek Jeter for a while and had keys to his apartment. According to the story, she entered one day to find him butt-ass naked on his couch, watching highlights of himself and bumping his chest with his fist, saying, "Yeah, Jeets. Yeah, Jeets."
That sounds like something that's on a Simpsons episode or something.
Here you go. It says, again, total hearsay, entertainment purposes, but this is still a great story. This is a tale that claims to back up the original story. It says, I kind of actually believe this only because one of my friends claims he knew a girl that went back to Jeter's place one night, proceeded to go down on him. As she performed, Jeter put his hand on her head and said, "Yeah, Jeets. Yeah, Jeets." As she kept going, I believe it was a soft "yeah, Jeets" opposed to a screaming, bumping "yeah, Jeets." But it's close enough.
Does it really matter? It's still awesome.
Well, look at it. It says, I never knew if it was true, but some unrelated has another "yeah, Jeets" story. It's getting some validity to me. So again, Derek Jeter's an interesting guy.
Here's an interesting Derek Jeter joke that my dear close personal friend, the late Brett Carlson, said to me. He actually posted on my Facebook. I want to say it was maybe 2008. I don't remember. Brett passed away in 2 years ago now. But randomly Brett would, and he had a very similar sense of humor as I did, which is why we got along so well. Brett randomly, like 4:00 in the evening or afternoon, posts on my Facebook wall, "Hey, I hear Derek Jeter is so awesome that he could smell his own dick underwater. Is this true?"
Wow.
I just replied, "Yep, probably."
Hey, so real quick, wrapping back to the pitching conversation real quick. Out of the 81 pitchers in the Baseball Hall of Fame, the average pitching Hall of Famer has 246 wins, a 3.0 ERA, and let me roll down, and 2,127 strikeouts. So looking at it right now, I don't think Bartolo Colon's going to get the votes because, again, the failed drug test. You've got CC Sabathia, Justin Verlander for sure, Zach Greinke outside looking in, John Lester outside looking in, Felix Hernandez outside looking in. But, again, keep an eye on Max Scherzer, Cole Hamels.
You don't think Lester would get in?
I don't know. That's the thing because
I see what I would take into account with Lester is he did miss some time battling cancer.
I totally agree with that one. I think
you know what I mean. I'm not saying that because sympathy votes or anything, but that robbed him of some serious time that could have put him in that conversation without any question. So that's where I think that would have to come into play. Also, to keep in mind, he was on the team that not only broke the curse of the Bambino, but he also broke the curse of the Billy Goat.
Absolutely.
So right there,
sorry to interrupt you there, but I wanted to mention here the one thing: 200. If he can hit 200 wins, but longevity is also important. Looking at the Hall of Fame, obviously you've got players 8 years. The guy played 8 years. You got 10, 12, 14, 9, 6, whatever. 18 years is the average of 81 pitchers. 18 years is the average Hall of Fame career span. Lester's at 13. Now, granted, he has I want to say, let me look at the contract. I don't think it's on here. Oh, yeah, he's under contract until 2021, which he'll be 37. Right now, Hall of Fame Monitor has him at a 96, which the likely Hall of Famer is 100. So, again, a couple more years, get maybe 200, 210 wins. He'll probably be in conversation, maybe a fringe Hall of Famer. But, again, that postseason record, as you mentioned, where John Lester, let me see here, in the postseason, 9-7 with a 2.51, but he won the MVP of the NLCS in 2016. 2016 Hall of Famer, 2007 Hall of Famer, 2013 Hall of Famer. He's a winner wherever he's gone. So I don't see why, again, that this is the fun part about the Hall of Fame conversation. It can go on forever because you start.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I take that back. He was not a member of the Curse of the Bambino teams that the Red Sox team that broke the Curse of the Bambino. He was not a member of that. He was a member 2 years after when they won it again.
And maybe we'll have to sit down sometime and pull out some projections and see if we can figure it out and see who might be a Hall of Famer. But Mike Trout, definitely. I'm not ready to put anybody else in, but Mike Trout for sure.
Yeah. I would say that Trout has a good shot. Bryce Harper, maybe too.
If he can get his batting average above 230.
Well, it depends. He might, depending on what team he signs with. You know,
he'll end up having a career batting average of 240, but he'll hit 900 home runs.
True. Very true. Very true. Well, baseball, Major League Baseball will make a gigantic push if Harper were to pass Barry Bonds in home run totals. That would put him in the Hall of Fame instantly, regardless. He could have, a career batting average of 150, but if he has 900 home runs, he's going in the Hall of Fame because he's not Bonds and there's nothing linked to him. So
you got that right. Well, hey, with that being said, we can wrap this podcast up here. Talk some football, talked a bunch of baseball. We'll be back soon. We've got baseball's about a month away. So
yes, indeed.
We're getting ready for it. We're getting ready for.
I'll tell you what. I am pumped because I met with my buddy Nick, who works at the Rochester Red Wings. Some of you may know him as as Grant Anderson, the guy that does the in between the inning promos. I met with him last week. We went out to lunch together and we were kind of talking about some of the promos that were coming up and starting to get to work on planning the next pro wrestling night. And that just got me pumped for baseball again. So I am all in. I am ready. I'm also all in on the AAF San Diego Fleet, baby. 2 more weeks until that starts.
It's gonna be something, that's for sure, man. I'm looking forward to baseball. I don't care about the AAF. Maybe it'll be fun. I'll watch, but I'm looking forward to baseball, man.
Baseball, baby.
Baseball podcast, damn it. I am Wolf BLTD on Twitter at Wolf.
I am Wolf. You should have said it. Just like
John
that.
is joining me. Again, he is at the JC Money on Twitter. As long as he's not blocked.
I have gone a whole 4 days as of recording of not being in Twitter jail right now. So we'll see. We'll see how long that one lasts.
We appreciate you tuning in, and we will catch you sometime very soon. And as always, we are Better Live Than Dead.
You're not.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good evening, and we will catch you sometime very soon.
Across the podcast. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.